Well, welcome to the fourth
Episode
Emerald
4.
Paradigm Spiritual Teachings. Isn't that fantastic?
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited, and I know that you are too, Lune. And we want to thank, first of all of the viewers who have watched the videos, the beautiful comments that they've left for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something that started as an experiment, and of course already we feel very purposeful, and it's thanks to all of you. And so we want to say we're very grateful.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Definitely, yeah.
And so we don't really talk too much about the topics that we're going to present because I think they're kind of inspired, right?
Absolutely.
And as we go along, we just kind of sit together for a few minutes and say, this is it. And this teaching's topic is duality. And that word in itself is so very powerful. Dual. Being in more than one place.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And when we incorporate that into spirituality, wow. It opens up this expansive field of discussion which we're going to have and invite you to share with us today. So what is that then, duality, living or experiencing in more than one space? Well, we could think that we're humans having a spiritual experience, or of course we're going to invite everyone to contemplate that we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And of course we know that we need to be in the human experience as we're spiritual beings. So how do we accomplish that? Right?
It's tricky. It invites all this contradiction of sorts into our life, I think, by these, there's a beauty. Like, I'm not going to argue that there isn't a beauty in, multifaceted. One day I'm this type of Lune, the other day I'm a little more this, we have that. So that's not necessarily what we're talking about, though, in terms of duality. I think that there could be maybe like misinterpreted in saying that duality, it's not that it's a bad thing, but it's not whole then. If you feel like you are split, if your actions do other than your morals, like that's kind of an area of duality that doesn't support you. While there's dual natures of us, where I can be like very, very sweet, or I could be like very cutthroat one day, like depending on what I need to do. So in terms of duality, I just want to like kind of put that across, that we're not saying that it's bad to be multifaceted or, essentially is what I'm trying to spit out
and
there.
it's ironic because, in previous discussions, I know that we have mentioned being multidimensional. And so it's not about the contradiction that we have, like the lotus, many petals that can identify us. But this is a duality where we see a separation. And I think that that's the key word that would follow what we're trying to illustrate today. There's a separation. We may hold a foundation or a truth, but then we don't hold it.
We don't act it. We don't live it.
There's a conflict in what we're holding and what we feel we may need to be, or we may need to practice, right? Or to be with other people. There's somewhat of a conflict. And what becomes important about that is we can be whatever we want.
Of course.
But if we're trying to achieve, right, a state of, say, spirituality and feeling, grounded and whole in that space, then when we practice duality, we, at the very best, neutralize our efforts. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, that's
right?
a really good way to say it.
Because we're kind of like, I like to say, we have one foot in the earth realm and one foot in spirituality. We're not really standing with both our feet. And can we ever stand? Yes. But we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But what do we do when we kind of feel... And what's also important is that a lot of times we practice that because we feel compelled to. It's not so much because we want to be with one foot in the earth realm and one foot in the spiritual realm, but the obligations in our lives and the people in our lives, kind of force us to be that. Yes?
Yeah, definitely. That
What do you
could be
think?
having a calling to do some kind of like greater purpose, but then like not taking the steps and just working the typical job that they might have that is not in alignment with that. So it's like that. It's not that we're saying like go quit your job and like give up everything and go start something that you're called to. It sounds nice, but that's not necessarily practical. That's not combining, what we're here to work with. Keep your job, but work towards that thing so you can let it go. It's like
the
being
balance.
like following something.
I love again that saying, being in the world, but not of it. What does that really mean? Being in the world, but not of it. Because I think that really illustrates duality, which is we don't have to conform to this dogma or the beliefs that don't support us, that's in the external world. And by the way, we have to follow laws, there's rules and regulations. That's not what I'm referring to. But more so the fields where people, believe in hatred and, justification and separation. They exist. But we do not have to be a part of it, even though we are in the earth.
Right. And that is very tricky to wrap your head around.
Yeah,
it really is.
Mastery.
Exactly. It takes practice. It's not the kind of thing where you're like, oh, I just do it like this.
Right.
It's like, it has to be kind of gentle. But I love your term, humble yet bold.
Yes.
That really plays in there to...
It is, and it's a process, by the way, so as we have these discussions, we invite the viewers to remember that, right, this is a practice. That mastery is about putting something into practice, and we're not going to always succeed, although I'm never going to limit the divine, but, we may have pitfalls where, we say like, wow, I really want to get to that place, of being in the world, but not of it. But then I got in my car and somebody, right? And a lot of things happen when could happen when you get in your car or when you go shopping or you have a family event. These are the places, by the way, common places where we get triggered into having this duality state.
Right. So I'm so sorry. But like to bring a little clarity to... a little grounding for us.
Yeah, sure.
It's so expensive. So what we're saying here, to put it in like a simple term then, and as an example, would be someone who's practicing meditation, who's going to yoga, who's eating clean, who's doing this, but when they are triggered or when they are in the environment that's something that, is uncomfortable for them in whatever way that means, then they act as if they're not practicing meditation, as if they're not aware of all. So, just to tie that in a little, right?
I love that, by the way. I'm so glad that you're mentioning that because you said it perfectly. We're practicing, we're feeling blissful, we're feeling that we're there. We've arrived. And then all of a sudden...
it goes out the window.
Yeah, right. What is that? Like it's almost like that. You ever go to amusement park? There's a ride that's called free fall. It takes you up like six flights, and then all of a sudden it drops you, and that's kind of like the feeling that we experience when we're in that space of practicing, of being there, of having that feeling of knowingness, and then suddenly something happens that takes us out of equilibrium or places us in that space of duality. It's tough.
It is. It is. I mean, we all have, I consider myself fairly calm. I consider myself a spiritual person. I think I'm on my path. I'm doing it. But, I certainly have moments where, things come up and I'm like, but my trick or what I do, and I would love some more advice, but it's just I'm feeling this way, but it's passing. It's just this thing. I kind of tie it in a little bit to the law of rhythm, you know?
The ebb and flow, yeah, sure.
You know, because I do see, and, you know, this could be a whole nother episode where we talk about the, or even a course, a class, to discuss the 7 principles of Hermeticism. But just to give you like a little tidbit of them is that they're almost stacked. So there are laws of the universe which cancel out the other ones. So while the law of rhythm, the back and forth, the ebb and flow, we're having a really good day, we're having a really bad day, oh, I'm in the zone, oh shit, I'm out of the zone. While that is, you know, gonna happen, there are other tools of mastery to overcome that ebb and flow, and I've seen it in my day-to-day life. So
absolutely. And again, I love what you're saying, because we are, and I say this lightly, we are in an imperfect environment, because this is a playground for emotions and expansion and growth. If we went to other dimensions, of course, we would have different, you know, laws. But this is a playground for, first and foremost, emotions, and then for growth and expansion. And so, in that sense, it's imperfect when we think of the avatar or that perfection. So I like to say that, you know, we're always going to have those moments. That's not an excuse, of course, to say like, oh, Lavenia said we're going to have moments, so let me have them. You know, it's okay. But to allow ourselves the grace to know that we are going to step out of that space of, you know, harmony. Like you said with Hermes, you know what? It's an ebb and flow, so we're going to have a curve. But then the key becomes, how long do we stay there? You see?
And how can we use that as well as like the way I see it, it's like this, almost like you have a slingshot. Like here you are on your path or whatever, and maybe you're due for a huge part of growth, or maybe you need to kind of switch your sights a little. And I feel like those pullbacks, or the pull is like a rubber band. And you can, if you utilize that down point to have a lesson, to have something to inspire more growth, you're kind of like, and you can go like way ahead, or maybe adjust a little bit and then go ahead. So use those times, you know, right? Like to...
yes. You know, when I find myself having a moment, not every time, but when I find, most of the time when I have a moment, I actually immediately changed the channel to the grace of knowing that I was having a moment and that I caught myself. You see? Because that's all it may need to be.
Right.
Because no matter what is occurring, we do not need to be a part of it unless we choose to. You know?
Yeah.
And the moment you have the awareness is the moment where you can shift yourself. Absolutely. And that's an amazing gift, that you can even have that awareness.
It sounds so small, like, oh, awareness, but it is huge.
It's everything.
It's huge.
It's everything. Imagine if you can, and that's exactly what I'm suggesting, what we're talking about, is if we can shift ourselves out of unpleasant, anxious, I'm having trouble talking to you.
It's one of those days, yeah.
Anxious-driven, you know, anxiety or unpleasant situation, by having the awareness and shifting ourselves from that.
It goes back to what you were talking about a couple of episodes ago. I'm losing track of them now, but removing yourself from the field of the collective, right? That collective kind of point, and witnessing and being like, it sounds snotty. I don't mean it to be in a nasty way, but like, I'm above this. I'm not better than this, but I'm above this. I choose to be above this. I'm not going to feed into this fight. Right. You know, this is not a battle. This is my, I can see the success and not, this is something I have to overcome and I have to get in there and fight it. It's like, you know what? No, I know how to work with this and move from that place.
And I love what we do, because we hear each other when we trigger, we remind each other. You just said the collective, and that's such an important element of duality. And what I mean by that is, we should have our foundation. which we stand on, which represents our beliefs, you know, what supports us, whether it's a deity, whether it's a practice, whether it's a group, right? And period, we should have that foundation. Because if we do not have a foundation that supports us, then the collective foundation is what's going to, in a great degree, dictate our experiences.
Like the news is probably a good example of that. You know, like
absolutely, the media, the news, fear-based beliefs,
is what I meant by that.
right?
Yeah, I'm not saying you shouldn't be aware of what's going on, but that fear-based news tactic and everything.
Right. And I like to, because again, I love analogies, I like to envision a pendulum that swings back and forth.
Me too. Me too.
You know,
me too. Like,
really?
we
never discussed
the law
that.
of rhythm,
right?
and they say the pendulum swings both ways.
Exactly. That's thought. Because we never discussed that, right?
No.
And there it is. The pendulum is always going to move, you know, right? And it moves sometimes in extremes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And yet we know that there's a core in the center.
Oh, a comfortable place.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
And so if we do not have a primary foundation within ourselves or a supportive foundation, then we're going to be subjected to the swing of the pendulum.
Absolutely.
Right?
And we can catch ourselves too. I don't want to say like when things are going really good, you should worry because the pendulum's going to swing back and they're going to be just as bad. I don't want to say that. I think that's scary to think about. You know, but on the other side of the coin, I think that like we're talking about that middle ground that is where we want to be.
Right.
It's like, okay, I'm having a little bad day, but it's not. And I think that when your growth, whether that's your spiritual growth, your financial growth, your personal development in any way, comes in steps, it's the safest route. You know, would I love to have $1 million fall out of the sky? Like, yeah, but I would almost feel like, you know, like not to like put it into my head, but I'd much rather see like the solid foundation of taking these steps. Oh, I've been working on meditation, or I started there. Oh, I started working with crystals. Oh, I got my Reiki. Oh, I got blah, blah, blah. And it's just like you have these very solid steps on how you're going to get there. And even when you fall down a little, you remember the steps on how to get back so easily.
And that's why the foundation is important.
Exactly.
Because when we build it, then if we take a step back, we have tools and practices that are going to catch us.
Right. And when you have you know, like shadow work, say, you know, that can be. I've done shadow work a few times, once on purpose and other times unintentionally. It was just time for me to do that. It was time for me to have some experiences, but I knew what I was doing. I could see, okay, this is shadowy time for me. There's a lot of reflection. There's a lot of stuff going on, and you know that's a whole nother topic as well. But I never got scared. I just knew it was something I was going to go through. And I had those tools. And oh my God, like what a difference. Like that term, like dark night of the soul. I've never experienced that since I've been doing, you know, like people talk about that. And it almost confuses me a little, to be honest. And maybe I just haven't got it yet. Like maybe it's coming. But I feel like with these tools in place and my tribe, my family that I've worked with, like...
That's a great subject for another discussion, by the way, the dark night of the soul. And in some ways, but we'll save that one, but in some ways, when we experience duality, we could sometimes experience almost like a dark side of the soul, because in some ways we feel like we're betraying ourselves. And what I mean by that is, say for example, we're working towards our foundation and we're feeling wonderful, we're meditating, we're doing affirmations, and we're doing all these beautiful practices that we know are enriching us. And now suddenly we have some kind of interaction with, whether it's the news, whether it's at work, which is a very common place.
Very common,
right?
yeah, because people feel trapped there.
Yeah. In relationships, something that's rattles us, right? And now
trauma, like a traumatic
trauma. And now all of a sudden we feel, now we're vibrating or experiencing from that other foundation, right? And we feel forsaken because at the moment, as we're engaging in that external experience, we say, how could this be happening? I had this foundation.
Right.
How could I be experiencing this feeling? Because I was so blissful and so peaceful, and there comes then, you know, a dark night of the soul, almost feeling forsaken that we've lost that foundation.
But it never goes away.
Yes, I was going to say immediately,
yeah.
right. The good news is, and so again, as we're talking about this subject of duality, on that first to second level, we never lose our grace.
No.
Right? Even though those experiences can definitely make us feel that way.
Sure, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's always, what we've built is always there. And talking about steps, whether we realize it or not, what happens is that we step out of it.
We do, yeah.
You know, and that's okay. You know, what's not okay is if we feel that we need to then stay there, or that we've lost grace, or that it's forsaken us, or that we can't get back.
Right.
That's not, you know.
It's not like committing to a new
I'm
way
lost,
of being.
I'm done, I'm never going to get it back.
Exactly. Because many people on a spiritual path or have this very immersed, we have a mutual friend who's done that before, or a few probably, who, you know, were very, and clients too, were very into what they were doing, whether that be meditation, all of that stuff. And then, you know, life happens. I myself, actually, you know, like I was very spiritual as a child. Then my aunt and my grandmother were pretty witchy, so we, like, learned about energy. But when it came time, like, once I entered junior high, and, you know, I had some issues anyway, I was, like, really bullied and stuff. But all I cared about was, like, my social standing and my social life. And it wasn't until after I had my son that all of this came flooding back to me, because I was finally removed from, you know, on maternity leave. I was removed from, like, my day-to-day that I had been caught up in for so long, you know? And then it was just like, boom, you know, like you're back. And I was like, wow, I can't go back to that. I can't go back to that. And that is when Lune and Innate began to emerge, you know? So
Isn't that beautiful?
It is beautiful. And I think that there was a value in all of that. Like, there was a lot of lessons I learned. There's a lot of things of almost that seeing what you don't want so that you can have what you do. But if I think that I didn't have clear tools back then. Like, although I was a spiritual person, I was young. I didn't have, like, a discipline. I didn't know about meditation. I just knew about energy and, like, how I felt, if that makes sense, because I was so young. But now, with all these steps and with all these tools and this foundation, even when I've had these shadow work or very dark experiences, losing my mom, you know, stuff like that, it's been like, it's just like, oh, no, I'm here, I'm aware, bloop, I'm back over here, and it's like another tool. So sorry, I kind of rambled there.
Oh, no, I love that, by the way. It's perfect, because life experiences, not recognizing, you said so many beautiful things, you know. And so as we kind of move from that first level to that second level, you know, right?
Yeah.
And we look at duality, then we know it can happen, you know, unconsciously. We can step out of it, right? We know that external situations, you know, can bring us into that state of duality, you know. But our minds and our thoughts, okay, play a major role in creating the sense of duality as well.
Absolutely.
You know. And now we take it to another level of, and again, this is all, God bless, for us to take and to contemplate, to see if it resonates,
of course,
right?
yes.
To observe ourselves and see, right? If we see an aspect of this, but not from a place of judgment, right?
No.
But we need to go there in order to, right. To explore the subject. A lot of us spend time, right, meditating again, doing affirmations, doing all this beautiful work, and we may say dedicate an hour to that, which is beautiful, by the way.
Yeah,
beautiful.
an hour is great.
But then the moment we step out of that, we step into, oh, did you see what that one was doing? Oh, I hate that person. I can't stand this. And blah, 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 right?
Yes.
And wow, there is the duality.
Exactly.
Yes?
It is, yeah. It's
There
unmonitored.
it is.
It's just...
We just became, so we, devoted an hour to the, source and to ourselves and to nourishing. And then it's almost as if we step out of that space. And it's almost like there's an on and off switch button. And I say all the time to my beloveds, you do not have an on off button. And what that means is we should be on in that state no matter where we are navigating in.
Because you're in alignment with yourself, and not only are you acting more accordingly to your, your purpose or your spiritual calling or anything like that, but you're also just by being you, by being even a calm person in your car. It's as odd as it sounds. It's like a funny analogy, but you're calm. And that makes other people calm. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm not saying that makes your driving experience like different necessarily in terms of, if there's traffic or if there's not. Although I do believe it does. I do. But by ending your meditation, taking a walk, getting back to work, whatever it is, by maintaining that frequency or as close to it as you can, you, even without opening your mouth, are setting off waves of alignment and unification. And there was something that I read in and we might be taking it to level 3, but Blanca has a beautiful book called Goddess Mother Speaks. Oh my God. I love that book. I've spoke about it in other videos that I've done. And there was this point where this kind of like plays into duality of the fall or the descendant, as we descend from the... You'll say it so much better than I can, but the split and how that split happened, and you talked about the alpha and omega flames, and oh, I could eat that with a spoon with like.
Well, I don't know, we're quite there to the right or third level. Maybe we are, and that is a beautiful mystery teaching.
Yeah, I love it.
Teaching of divine truth. Where we, when we look at, when we step out of, say, the duality of physicality only, and when we step out of the living with one foot in physicality, one in spirituality, and now we've stepped into this realm of, yes, I know I'm a divine spirit, yes, I know I'm having a human experience, but where, I know I'm part of the source. Now we open up that door to, wow, what happened? What happened, and how can I apply, the beginning of creation to my experience now? And it's, the creation started perfect, and pure. And the word creation is based on the very truth that the source wanted to experience itself. And the many unlimited multitude ways in which it could, which thank God, the goddess, that it wanted to have that, because that means that you are you, I am me, right? All the viewers are themselves, and that not only are we individualized within the source, but we also create and experience.
And play off each other.
Right, and mirror, right? And all these other things. Individually, but in the collective realm. Isn't that amazing,
it's
right?
incredible,
It's just like this beautiful creation of... But when that creation desired to experience itself, it had an inspiration, and that was to create aspects of itself. Of course, I very personally feel that it may have created the goddess energy first. But that's irrelevant right now. We know that ultimately it created two aspects of itself, which is the masculine and the feminine, right? And from that then became more desires from the creative source to have more experiences. Anyway, for the sake of duality, because I know that this is a subject that we will revisit.
Yeah, definitely.
At some point, the source desired to have this experience, which we call Earth, and this experience which we are having here, which is emotions. How did that occur? Well, the source is perfect and absolute, and it started to create versions of itself, right? And as it had these desires, it had to descend from all of its knowingness, from all of its perfection, to allow itself to have this experience, you know.
I almost see it like a denseness, you
There
know, like
is.
in like a visual, like the visual image that I get is like nothing but matter, you know, like a energy, and like mist, and then, or maybe like fire, and then mist, and then just like what we are now, like this like very solid, or material anyway, like environment.
This is a big one, because if we do have a belief structure, and you know, we believe in the source and we believe in creation, then we know that we are an aspect of it. We are it representing itself in this form. And the great grace of that is that we're going to return to that source. We don't stop being that source, but we feel like we do, depending on where we are in our journey, because we experience separation, we experience fear, doubts, you know, we question ourselves, am I really that deity, you know, that ultimate source? And if I am, why am I making all of these poor choices?
Why is everything so painful?
Why is my life, right? So again, this is such a vast discussion. So if we can sort of condense it and just start to where we just learned about how the creation began, and honor that the creation created this, immediately we should be able to honor ourselves instead of, you know, condemning ourselves for the choices that we call mistakes.
Right. And instead switch it to experiences, lessons, opportunities for growth, opportunities for development, to become closer to source in some way, you know, as much as we can in this realm.
And that doesn't mean that, again, that we let the pendulum take us this way and say, oh, it's okay, I shouldn't strive to experience better, you know, but not to get caught as a definition of that's all that we are, because we're not. In truth, we are the absolute. We are that amazing, pure, loving, perfect creator. And our journey here in this realm is to gently but, you know, boldly walk into that direction of remembrance, and of embracement, of embracing that aspect.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's beautiful. I love how you said that. It's beautiful.
Well, it is, you know, and of course, in between, we have so much. But I like to say, just to kind of, because that duality is coming again, it's such a strong, be authentic with yourself, which is where we're going to be moving, right?
Our next
authenticity, become the observer to the best of your ability, and allow whatever levels other individuals are in to be where they're at, and stay true to your task of growing or where you desire to grow, right?
Absolutely.
And don't get caught in what others are doing, because that creates a lot of duality right there.
Right. The comparison creates duality.
Competition.
Yeah.
Or even
criticizing, being judgmental.
Exactly.
That also.
You know what? Become the lovingly detached.
The best. It's the best.
Lovingly detached.
Yeah.
Let others love and support them, but don't engage. That's what that means in what they're doing and what they're saying, because that's the distraction that creates the duality. You know?
And be mindful, you know, not to be nasty, but be mindful of, there are people who are kind of in your life, they mean well, but they are trapped in that. They are very in the competition, in the kind of playing off one another, and not in a way for growth, but just to kind of test our buttons. There's got to be somebody out there with the sticks. There's got to be. That's kind of the part of it.
Supportive, tribe.
Right,
God
right.
bless. We've been so lucky. Find your tribe or find a supportive soul group that can harmonize with what you're attempting to hold, because it can be challenging, by the way, when we're striving to do all of this amazing work for ourselves and to vibrate this energy, and we have souls that are in our immediate family or partners who are vibrating from a different place. Of course, our job is not to tell you what to do. We may need to make some choices at some point, right?
Right.
But in the meantime, lovingly detach is the key to not engage in that, right?
Absolutely.
And the gift and the reward is recognizing that there is no duality. That everything is a perfect experience, and it does not, we go back to that original show, define you. Because it is an experience, and yet you enjoy having it because it defines the divine source that is you.
I love it. It's perfect. It is.
Yes?
Yeah, it is.
Should we pull an oracle
we'll do our
card to
cards.
bring that full circle?
Got the Psychic Tarot today.
Yes. I don't know why, but it was just like, pick me.
I wanted some time in the spotlight.
What a great discussion that was.
Absolutely.
Right? I hope that it inspired others and spoke to the viewers. Ooh.
Is that 2 cards? Oh, it's 3.
Well,
I never know what to do sometimes when they fall.
I think
what
that
do
we
you
should.
do?
Yeah,
Keep them,
I
right?
always.
That was kind of perfect.
That was kind of perfect. So how about if you pick one, I pick one,
Good
and then
idea.
we both. Right?
Yeah. Good idea.
Okay, so you pick first. Okay.
Got intuition. There's an Ankh. Almost, I want to say, an androgynous kind of looking individual,
so.
which I love that because of the dual nature between, even if we look into like the feminine and masculine energies that are within us. So there's like a scrying board as well, or a black mirror kind of thing, a door. I always like to describe the card. I don't know why I always do that. Maybe it's me. So yeah. I see a lot of feminine and masculine here. The Ankh particularly too as well has that kind of energy for me. So
it's interesting because when I look at it, right, it says intuition, but because we're on the subject of duality, I almost see immediately like observing a space outside of itself, right?
Yeah.
So almost like remembering to be of it, to partake in it, but not be of it. It's almost like observing this space outside of itself,
definitely.
right?
Yeah, it does look like that because it's very cosmic or like a little...
And of course, to follow our intuition, to trust it always. And that's a message that we should always, right?
Right.
Okay, so...
Yeah.
Anything else that you feel?
I mean, just in terms of like the feminine and masculine, I think that's a kind of maybe like it as an exercise, like an easy kind of way to like play into understanding that we are the combination. Like there, like duality almost does not exist. Like clearly it does, but it also doesn't.
Yes, duality, right? Defining ourselves, masculine, feminine,
right?
And that's a hard one because we are in a gender-driven embodiment.
It's changing,
and yet we embody both. And when we bring the balance of both of those energies, then we really are whole. We can be powerful and gentle, or empowered and gentle.
Or logical and intuitive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So see
That's
how you are both of
that we
those.
need
Yeah.
to. Yes?
Yeah.
Blessings. Okay. Ooh, I love it. Transformation.
Oh, beautiful.
This is a reminder that we're always going through metamorphosis of sorts, and we're always growing, and whether we believe it or not, or whether we like it or not, in every situation, we are growing. We may not have an awareness of it, but every situation, every experience is an opportunity for growth.
That backswing of the pendulum.
Even the backswing, and there's such a movement of forwardness here. So I feel like the message is, don't worry if you feel that you take a step back, because that step back, like Lune said, is like the rubber band that's going to propel you to take 2 steps forward.
Mm-hmm.
So be gentle with yourself, but also be committed. Committed, but this is the outcome, always transformation.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I feel like I just have to share this one.
Yes. Oh,
something we talk about all the time. Hope.
Yes.
You know? And for me, I see it as the energy, like that divine, like that you are connected to that you are, and a trust goes into hope. Like trust and hope are kind of like combined for me, because it's not a hope like, oh, I hope I get that job, or oh, I hope they like me. It's not that kind of hope. It's the expectation of the best for development and for progress.
Oh my goodness, very emotional, that card, and I agree. And I'll just add to the beauty that you said to it. We can mess up, because no matter what we are experiencing or the choices we've made, we are the divine. We're not part of it, and yet we are, but we are. And so, it's such a beautiful message of you cannot mess up. You're on your way, and it's almost like the mirror. You need to see that, and then you will know the steps to take there. But you need to see that first and believe in that. Isn't that beautiful?
Absolutely. I love it. Good cards.
Thank you all so very much. We're so grateful for all the support, all the beautiful messages. It inspires us to keep presenting these beautiful teachings. Yes.
Yeah. And you know what? I just want to add thank you to everyone who has. We've gotten emails already.
Yes.
We've gotten some beautiful messages sent directly to us. And we were inspired to create a Patreon page. So if you'd like to support this project, I'll put the link below for you. And just to mention that, so thank you so much for checking it out. There's some cool tiers that we set up so far, and we'll continue to develop it as everything goes. But you got to start somewhere, right? So just to put that out there. But yeah, this is just so rewarding. This is such a rewarding experience for us.
Yes.
So it comes from such a place of love, and we appreciate your support so very much through it, because it's neat. It has to be both, right? Like there needs to be both.
Right. Yes.
And we're talking to a wall.
Well, until the next, we leave you always with our love and with our light and with our peace, and many blessings to you. And we love you.
We love you. Yeah, love you too.
Love you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.